Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, I bought a private parking spot outside my house for easy parking, and my neighbor decided to steal my spot while I was on vacation. When I tried to take it back, he ended up towing my vehicle. Here is what happened. Subscribe to Ripe on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Hey there, my name is Justin and I've got a horror story about living in my HOA neighborhood with especially terrible neighbors. I need to start by prefacing that I live in a small suburb with houses that have no driveway for private parking. We do, however, have the option of purchasing at extra cost a pass to a private parking space next to our respective houses, which I eventually broke down and did after suffering the long walk from my car to home with many grocery bags far too many times. As I said, I paid out of my own pocket for one of these spots and it was really useful. While I did not have much contact with my neighbors, they all brought it up in our brief conversations with a jealous or envious tone, which they tried to disguise playfully. I should have seen the red flags at this point, but I didn't. After my shift as mall security guard ended, I packed my bags and left to stay at a friend's house a few hours away for the weekend. When I returned late Sunday evening, it was raining and dark as I navigated through the rows of house back to my parking spot. I almost swung into it by instinct but forced myself to stop when I noticed it was occupied. I pulled over to the side of the road and got out to see what was going on. Despite the darkness, I recognized it as belonging to my neighbor, so I went to bang on their door. A few minutes later, they appeared at the doorway. Christopher, a disheveled middle-aged man with a distant stare that made me wonder whether he was on something. With the calmest attitude I could muster, I asked about the parking spot, expecting him to apologize and quickly offer to relocate under a misunderstanding. He did not, however. Instead, he quietly, bluntly and rudely stated that he meant to park there and would not move it on the account of his bad back that stops him from getting around much these days, giving off the same dreary annoyance about the lack of private driveways that I had heard 1,000 times before. Not wishing to make a big deal of it yet, I told he could stay but only until the morning, which earned me a dismissive from him. I tried to tell him despite his back problems I owned and paid for that spot, so it was still actually mine. He then claimed that he would be using it from today onwards because his close friend, the HOA president, said he could, free of charge. I'm fairly sure this was not someone that could be reasoned with. I waved him off and returned home to consider my options. The next morning I asked around and it turns out Christopher is not that well regarded in the neighborhood either, with similar experiences and situations of nastiness arising over the years which led them to exile him from friendly circles. Given his reputation, I began to feel a lot more confident that his claim about the local HOA president was a lie. The only problem facing me next was how I could reclaim my parking space. The next morning, I get up and get ready for work when I open the curtains to find his old blue car missing from my parking spot. I dash outside, snatching up my keys in a frenzy as I quickly relocate my car back to its rightful place beside my house. Forgetting I also had to leave for work but not wishing to leave my spot empty for him again, I called in sick. Not the best idea, I know, and no means of a good long-term solution, but I was happy at least to not have to worry about fighting with him again today. A few hours passed before I heard a vehicle stop outside, followed by loud expletives from a familiar voice. I moved to stand by the window to look outside. Unfortunately, he must have noticed, as the next thing I noticed, Christopher was stomping his way over to my door. On either the fifth or sixth heavy knock, I slowly swung the door open to see him boiling over like a hot tomato, holding in my laughter. He began shouting in my face the same expletives, but I zoned out as I noticed the noise began to draw out other curious neighbors, peering around corners and through gaps in their curtains. When I focused again, Christopher was repeating the same demand for me to move my car, which I flatly refused. After a few more minutes of shouting, he was visibly exhausted from his outburst and gave up, muttering angrily under his breath revenge as he went. The neighbors vanished just as quickly, like field mice scared by a sudden bird call harbinging doom. I didn't have work the next day, so I planned to stay up late watching sports and falling asleep in front of the television, like any responsible adult living on their own. The next thing I know, I was being woken up at 5 AM by a constant alarm and yellow flashing light from outside my window. I roll to my feet and swing the door open to find it was a tow truck. My mind took a minute to process what it was seeing as my car was carefully being lifted onto the back of the truck. I rushed out the door in my sleepwear to confront the driver. Surely he must have the wrong car. The driver said he got a call last night about an abandoned vehicle that needed to be removed, although the caller did not give their name. When I asked why he thought a car parked in a parking spot might be abandoned, he directed me to 4 flat tires slashed or punctured by a sharp object. Unable to convince the driver to put my car down, I went inside to get my keys and prove it was not abandoned, but by the time I returned he was leisurely turning the corner along with my car. As I walked disheartened back to my house, I noticed a light turn on from Christopher's house as he appeared in the window, smiling and waving. I clenched my fist and marched back inside, slamming the door. I considered calling the cops, but without any solid evidence I knew they would do jack about it, and while I would like to wipe his smug smile off in court, it was too costly to consider. I spent the next few days wrecked in thought after I managed to reclaim my car and get it into a garage for repairs. All the while, his car was in my parking space. I had a brilliant idea after his neighbor on the other side mentioned his excessive drinking habits. The next evening, I heard his door slam outside and I saw him stumble to his car, still drinking from the bottom of a bottle. This dude. I tipped off the cops, giving them as much detail as I could before he sped off out of sight. I waited but heard nothing else that evening. The next morning, I turned on the television to his mugshot on the news. Apparently, he tried to escape in a car chase. When the cops tried to pull him over, he got into a hit and run before crashing into a wall. Christopher was arrested and he was not allowed to drive anymore as he obviously lost his license. I got my car back, my space back, and a new neighbor. And yeah, ripe stars, I'm not very happy about the hit and run, but that is exactly what the neighbor deserved. A nice cushy seat in a jail cell. I hope he gets comfortable there. But seriously, I just don't get it when people get super drunk and then still insist on driving. One of the most stupid things you can do. Either way, let's continue with the next story. This one is titled Revenge While in Debt. I have a gym membership that I was officially signed up for under false pretenses. The sales guy pitched me an offer of a 2-week free trial, but then signed me up for a full membership. He used fake bank account information, so I only found out about all this when they called me 3 months later telling me I owe them 3 months of unpaid membership fees. I went in to discuss the matter with the gym management personally, and they were very hostile. When I told them to just cancel it, they insisted that I have a 1-month time period to cancel, and since it's been 3 months, I will have to pay 50% of the 24-month contract in order to cancel. I was furious. I did a little digging and discovered that this is a running scam they operate. They sign potential customers up to a free trial, then fraudulently attach it along with your signature to a full 24-month contract with fake banking details. Since your true banking account won't be debited, you won't know until 3 months later when it is too late to cancel without paying the 50% cancellation clause. When you insist that you were signed up for a free trial, they gaslight you and use an insistent browbeating tactic to get you to see no way out. This is a prevalent scam in my country, and with a little research I discovered that because of gyms scamming the public this way, laws were passed that exempts the public from having their credit affected in any way for non-payment of gym membership fees, and no legal action can be taken by any gym against any member for unpaid membership fees. However, while I was protected by law from my credit record being tarnished and from any legal action, I am not protected against harassment. The gyms hire debt collection companies to basically harass non-paying members with letters, emails, phone calls, text messages, and so-called agents who visit your workplace and your home. And by the way, ripe stars, I'm not exactly sure if OP really signed up for a gym or his local mobster mafia hangout place. That sounds really shady. Anyway, I returned to the gym and revealed my findings. They told me that I will either pay them or be handed over to their legal department and taken to court for double the contractually agreed amount and have my credit record destroyed. I smugly revealed that I am well aware of the law and that they have no power or authority to take any kind of action against any member. They doubled down on their insistent hardball tactic. I simply laughed and told the management lady that I already found 6 members who were scammed and have informed them of what I know, and I intend to educate as many members as I can about their rights. Then I called her a barking rabbit with no power at all. I was swiftly escorted out. The next few weeks the harassment tripled in intensity. I got a few letters in the mail weekly. About 10 emails daily from changing accounts, about 10 texts daily from multiple changing numbers, and between 20 to 30 calls daily, as well as a few times per week their obnoxious agents would harass me at my house or workplace. They had the same hostile, threatening hardball tactic, obviously meant to stress you out and pester you so much that you would just pay them in order to get some peace. The calls were the worst. They would find out personal info about your personal life and use it to get under your skin. After a while, I was exhausted. I realized that I was anxious about going outside. I would get a jolt of anxiety when the phone rang or when I had a knock on my door. This had to stop. I considered to change my number and email, but then I thought about my situation logically. I realized that they can harass, but nothing more. They can only affect my mental well-being if I take them seriously. What is there to fear? They are barking rabbits. Toothless, clawless pit bulls. I did some pickup artistry in my earlier bartending days. There is a tactic used by pickup artists called agree and amplify, where you take nothing a person says seriously and amplify their insults to the ridiculous. It's a good technique to use to lighten the mood, especially if someone is being hostile towards you, since it disarms the attacker. The next day, when I received my first call, I answered and discussed with the hostile woman about all the different soups there are and different recipes for soup, and the more she would try to anger me or insult me or change the subject, I would suggest different soups that would calm her down and ask her what soups her children and family like. After a while of this, she was mentally exhausted. I could tell she had enough. I continued to discuss with her the virtues of soup, but she remained quiet for maybe 40 seconds or so, and she was still there since I heard her heavy breathing. She was pissed, so I hung up instead. I assumed that since she was calling from a call center, she is not allowed to hang up, so she stayed silent and waited for me to hang up instead. That was a victory. When the agents harassed me at work, I employed a similar tactic. They would often dress in a very formal, professional manner to give faux demeanor of importance, and when they talked, they used legal terminology, obviously a scare tactic that alluded to corporate legal strong-arming. I simply met them outside and offered a tour of the premises. When they declined and insisted that I talk to them seriously, I told them to follow me to my office, to which I lead them to the toilet. They did not like that, so I took them to the recreational room and offered them drinks. They asked for coffee. I gave them tap water in paper cups. When they started talking, I would simply walk off to another area and talk nonsense. They left after a while, leaving an envelope I threw in the trash. They tried harassing me at my home. When I opened the door to 2 guys, I told them that I was waiting for them and started directing them how I wanted my front yard landscaped. When they got serious, I mentioned how I wanted the sides trimmed and how the weeds need to be plucked by hand. One moment, one of the guys got heated and got in my face and said a few nasty things to taunt me. I simply told him that this emotional state reminds me of a stump that I've been wanting to have removed for years. How much extra would they charge me to remove it? This guy lost it and called me very nasty names while walking away and chucking an envelope at my feet. I simply shouted back at him, "Thank you for the quote," as I picked up the envelope to chuck in my trash. I went on informing friends and acquaintances, as many as I could who had a membership at the gym, about the scam and my tactics. Some saw it as too much effort, but others assisted. One delivery driver got his entire team of 13 to quit the gym and employ my tactics. This went on for a few weeks. I started getting very creative with my harassment countermeasures. There are so many beautiful topics, my favorite of which was preposterous political views, like discussing how Hitler was in fact the good guy or how Nelson Mandela was an evil dictator. Also, I loved ridiculous conspiracies like how all music since 1995 are computer generated and humans are in fact controlled by parasites called brains. I knew I was getting to them. After a few weeks they stopped calling and the agents stopped visiting, only the texts and emails persisted. I downloaded software to filter the text and emails as best as I can, and it's worked well enough that I decided to keep my number and emails and just delete them in batches separated by the software. After a few months I have not heard from them and noticed that there were no more letters and no more batches, emails or texts to delete. Feeling superior, I visited the gym to speak to the manager, but was refused entry when they heard who I was and was told that my membership was cancelled months ago. They tried to contact me to move forward with the cancellation and waive the 50% clause, but I was impossible to contact and letters went unanswered. Turns out they stopped their antics after too many members came forward insisting on cancelling the contract. I spoke to the staff member at length, an okay guy. He told me that this happens every now and then. All the gym does is lay low for about 6 months and then start up the scamming again and harassing people. Apparently, this tactic brings in a lot of money and the gym would close down otherwise. I just shook my head. I really had lots of fun toying with these people. I actually miss annoying them and getting under their skin. I still chuckle thinking of it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, this was an absolutely brilliant revenge story, and if you enjoy these petty revenge stories, then I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and maybe post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support me. Thank you so much. The next one is titled Never Insult My Pets. My sister and her husband are spending a lot of time in the hospital with my baby nephew who has some health problems. So I've been dog-sitting Fred, my sister's 16-year-old dachshund. My neighbor saw me bringing Fred in for the first time and freaked out. Wanting to know why I was bringing in strays, said that we would end up overrun if the other dogs found out. The crazy cow seems to think the Twilight bark from 101 Dalmatians is a real thing. She tried to kick poor Fred. He growled because she was shouting at him, but he is so old his teeth are almost useless. He could not have bitten if he wanted to, and she could see that, but she still kicked at him because she is evil. Even when I told her that he is my sister's dog, she did not apologize and just told me to keep his ugly face away from her garden and stomped off. I hate this woman. I can cope with her racist, homophobia and all-around nastiness when I'm her target, but Fred is elderly and frightens easily. He is confused and he misses my sister. He deserves to be avenged. Confronting my crazy neighbor will not help. I have learned this through long experience. And so my petty revenge plan was born. I've had a few issues with slugs getting in my house, escaping the warm weather. I used to just put them near my compost heap, but now I drop them onto her vegetable patch, along with any others I can find lurking. I have even set up some old pots in shady places to encourage them. I am really committed. Every evening she removes slugs from her veggies and gives them a good watering. And half an hour later, I drop several big fat slugs over the fence right on top of her lettuces. By morning, her lettuce looks like lace. She is losing her mind, shining torches into every nook and cranny, looking for slugs every night. She is setting up beer traps and eggshells and cursing all of mollusk kind. It's glorious to behold. And yeah, Ripe Stars, that's the last story for today. I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you want even more videos, especially exclusive ones and exclusive emojis to use in the comments, then please don't forget to join my channel, aka click the join button next to the subscribe button to get access to exclusive Ripe content. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.